Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. It is Monday, December 12th. In this episode, we'll review all four quarterfinals, talk the mighty Moroccans, and preview all the semifinals as well. But first, Mike, we have to sadly take a somber note and mourn the passing of Grant Wahl. Anyone who has followed American soccer on television, in the press, in the paper, knows about Grant Wahl. I think, it's one of these things where you take a guy for granted. They just are the guy. He was part of Fox News. He just seemed to be freelance everywhere. And I think the thing I'm taking out of it, and it weirdly affected me a lot, and I don't know why. I think it's because he just turned 49 and I just turned 48, which means there's a guy who's my age who just died covering the game. And it's just, there are guys that mean hockey. I know you probably don't like Barry Melrose at this point or Steve Levy on ESPN, but those are the guys that I would think they're the hockey guys. And if something happened to them, you'd be like, oh shit, he died. Or Dick Vitale, these guys that mean something to their individual sports. Or when Chris Berman dies. But this is a guy who's got 20 years from being Chris Berman. And Grant Wahl dying is a real fucking bummer. Kind of puts
it is, and it's
World
horrible. And our greatest condolences go to his his loved ones and his wife and his brother.
Yeah.
It has to be said that he was the center, not the center. He was one of the controversial folks in Qatar, challenging the norms over there. He was detained for a little while for wearing a gay pride
25
shirt.
minutes. 25 minutes.
Pardon me, right. But he always sort of did what he thought was the right thing to do. He was so unapologetically, unabashedly, profound in the way that he covered the game. It's one thing if Barry Melrose dies, right, where he's just this goofball on ESPN.
Yeah.
But Grant Wahl was somebody who was passionate and thorough and honest in all of his reporting and all of his, whether it be about the U.S. team, about teams overseas, the rise of MLS. He just was one of the
integrity.
But one of the best foot soldiers, for lack of a better term, of the U.S. soccer movement, right? And helped bring along the American Outlaws. Many years ago, I got to meet him at an American Outlaws event. I got a picture with him. He's so tall. And I'm short, but it was just he's such a sweet man, and it was shocking in the way that he passed, obviously,
and weird, and we have to go through the whole thing of is he I have to say this because it really bothers me. It's like, oh, is he a Khashoggi? I'm like, no, he's not a Khashoggi.
No,
they chopped Khashoggi up. Okay, don't conflate the things. The guy, it's weird. He's there. He died, but I think that his brother didn't help by saying, sorry. There's a whole video of his brother saying, "Oh, I think my brother was
sure." Listen,
and it's really sucked.
Look, I can't begrudge him for that because
we don't know.
Just completely grief stricken and all that, and people say silly things and whatever, and that's fine. But the last thing he wrote was about a migrant worker dying, I think, falling to his death from one of the stadiums, and
hit head on a crane.
And the Substack that he wrote, because he was freelancing. He was over there freelancing, by the way, folks. Sports Illustrated laid him off a few years ago. He was
because he stood up to them and said, "You can't fuck these people over."
Yes. Right. Exactly. He just always stood for the right thing, and that's he to his last breath almost. He was writing. I think the first line of his last story was, "They just don't seem to care about this person who passed away." It's the Qatar World Cup machine rolls on sort of thing. So, So yes, for a moment there was some internet doing internet things, but at the end of the day, listen, let's pretend for a second everything could be as nefarious as possible. It doesn't change the fact that it's a tragic event where U.S. soccer and world football has lost, one of its greatest champions. So,
and they gave him. He had gone to 8 straight World Cups. FIFA covered it. They put his face up on the stadium scoreboard and he got a moment of silence. And so that's how much he was revered. And I think the thing that I did, and I went deep dive, I read all the tributes and they're all the same. This is just a good dude who helped everyone that he could and wasn't a dick. And that is very rare in sports. It's also very rare to not get cynical. We just do this podcast and we get run out of gas. Imagine covering games where you fall in love with a guy and you go to the locker room and you talk to him and he's just some scumbag. And you're just like, I just, no. Anyway.
You're right. You had a never-ending engine, and you're right. But yeah, I mean, we wanted to touch on that right off the top. It's a terrible occurrence, and it's certainly a cloud over the rest of the World Cup. Just as something that, for lack of anything, we won't have his stories to read, right? Which is sad. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. But we'll move on to a U.S. soccer story that I tell you.
Yeah. We'll get into the previews, but we do want to cover what we've been talking about. The WhatsApp group, ask about it, find out about it. It's very good. Manny, Dima, the whole crew, John, we're all in there talking shit. BJ, if I forgot anyone, Christian, we're all in there. We're fighting. There's been some talk of pooping. There's been some talk of sodomy. There's also been talk of Greg Berhalter and Gio Reyna. And Mike, you have the floor.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because as any U.S. soccer fan with two eyes has seen, Gio Reyna was missing in action for the majority of the U.S.'s run to the round of 16. And there were a lot of questions as to why. There was a rumor that he was not 100% fit. There was rumors that he was slacking off in practice, in training. And then there was just, did Berhalter think he was a good fit? Well, we seem to have found the answer to those things. Berhalter speaking at what seems to be like a leadership conference in New York this week earlier, or maybe late last week. He seemed to allude to the fact that he had to almost send a player home from Qatar. And he was saying that this person
he did not say who.
No, of course he didn't say who. But it wasn't hard to draw a line between one and the other. He said that this person was dividing the room. He said that there was a not unanimous, but a vote where the team agreed with him. And just a lot of these things where he was slandering one of the players on his team that will quote unquote remain nameless. Well, hey, 3 minutes later, people are like, oh, he's talking about Gio Reyna. That's ridiculous. Now, if you don't watch Dortmund and if you aren't super familiar with Gio Reyna, he's 19 years old. First and foremost, he is coming into the tournament. He is a legacy. He is the son of a former U.S. Soccer World Cup captain, Claudio Reyna, the 2006 World Cup, I believe. He is
director of football of the one-time MLS champion NYCFC.
That's correct. That's correct. I thought he does something at Man City now. It's not important, but
he may still work for the team.
Well, he's City Football Group, right?
He left.
So, so he's got that pedigree. He is 19 years old. He is just a phenomenal player for Dortmund. Really, really exciting. And he's in that creative midfield role where I don't know if you noticed, folks, we didn't have a whole heck of a lot there to offer in the 4 games that we got to watch. So he certainly had services that were in demand for the U.S. team. And he kind of fired back earlier today on Instagram. He had hoped not to comment on the matters. It's my belief that things were just remain private. It sounds as though there was kind of a headbutting event behind scenes and it cooled down. He did make a couple appearances in games. So I guess it was seemingly water under the bridge until Berhalter.
The timeline I'm understanding is this is the series of events. I don't know if it's a timeline, but this is at least a sequence. Berhalter says to Reyna, you're not going to get a big role in this cup. Before the World Cup, for whatever reason. Reyna being a kid who probably thinks he's better than everyone on the team, and he might be, to be fair, freaks out and probably acts like an asshole. That's fine. Berhalter, I guess, talks to the internal team. This is where the vote part comes in.
Right.
And from his internal team, they vote whether they want to kick him off the team.
The backroom staff, his assistant coaches.
The players. So this was a point of contention. The players did not have a vote on this. And then he's allowed to stay. Reyna is then asked to apologize to the team. Whether that's to the team or to the backroom staff is unclear, and then they kind of go on from there. I do think, and we've been killing Berhalter, and Berhalter has a lot of problems, but I thought that team played well, and that England draw means he doesn't get fired in my book. But I think the thing here is that Reyna is very, very injury prone. He has glass freaking hamstrings. And I think, I'm just trying to put myself in Berhalter's head. He probably thought, he can't go when I need him to go. I need him running full speed all the time. He's not Pulisic, who is the captain of the team or whatever. And I'm going to find spots for him when I need him. And I'm going to tell him that in advance. And that's the problem, right? And he tried to hide it by saying injury stuff. And that was the first thing. Reyna said, no, I'm not injured. But I think that's where Berhalter was like, let me just try and cover this up. But he needed to communicate to Reyna, hey, I'm going to say this. And he didn't. So we had that first discrepancy. And so that's where the U.S. men's national team is. There is a story now. Herc Gomez on the Football Americas. You know, they cover MLS. They come with the U.S. national team. He's not in Berhalter's camp. And he's already like, can the players trust Berhalter? Right. Is this the end of Berhalter? Mm-hmm. That's
and that's what I was going to say. Like, you said the England draw means that he's probably going to stay. Well, he's out of contract right now, right?
No, but he should stay, in my view.
Okay, but
now he's in trouble.
My understanding was, and I didn't realize this until earlier last week. Like his race has run. He is up for a contract. He's currently unemployed technically, right? He's the acting U.S. coach, if you will. We don't need one right now. So,
and we don't need one until 27,
the summer.
Yeah, the team can just go by themselves.
We'll get into that in a second. We'll get that in a second. But we don't need one until the summer. We don't, or at least probably the March next is the next one. I can't imagine they have a January date for FIFA. So the question becomes, why did he do this, right? Why did he make the statement at this leadership conference? Well, you could argue that this is him trying to say, hey, we had a difficult situation. He was under fire from this show, from everybody who was like, where the fuck is Gio Reyna? I think I said those exact words more than once during our World Cup shows. He was basically trying to nod to say, this is what I was dealing with, right? That backfired. I think it could have backfired, and Herc Gomez apparently agrees with me. I think that could have backfired enough to get him out of a job. Yeah. Now, there were also reports that he was looking overseas. He was looking at one of the jobs, in one of the lower leagues or one of the Red Bulls for argument's sake.
Everybody else goes to Red Bull.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. And all this does is add more variables to the stew that make it a little bit harder to see him as the U.S. coach after this. I'm not saying he's not going to be. If the percentage was a 50-50 shot, because they're going to reassess everything after the World Cup, it's a 40%, 60-40 shot that he won't be now, right? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I so here's my take, and then we're going to go into the reviews of these amazing quarterfinals. This is good. This is good for American soccer. Yeah. I'm going to sound like Alexi Lalas here. It's good that we're actually getting upset at our coach and want to fire him, and upset about selections, and upset about whether he should be there or should not be there. In other countries, the coach quits immediately after a disappointing loss, right? We saw Luis Enrique like, oh, I lost to Morocco, I quit. Or, I think the Tiche for Brazil, and we're going to get to these teams, he's gone. Now, they may have already been there, but the optic of I lose, I quit, I'm gone. And they're out of town. They don't even do interviews. They just get vaporized. So I think it's a good thing that we're all super concerned about Gregg Berhalter and not just like warm and fuzzy and just feeling like everything's fine. Everything's not fine. And we've got to sort of be a mature, sort of grumpy nation who hates their coach, just like they do for Southgate in England.
But think about this, right? And that's a good parallel, right? Yeah. And maybe we'll swing to that in a second. Yeah. It was the big one off the jump. But you're right. It's been 8 years, right? The 2014 World Cup what was the refrain coming out of there? Oh my God, if I could get 10 minutes alone in a boxing ring with Chris Wondolowski, right? Like we played this valiant effort game against Belgium. We had it on a knife's edge and we let it slip away. I don't care if he was offside, but you get this legendary performance from Tim Howard. You had feelings. You had things that kept you up in the night thinking about what ifs and storylines. And the thing about U.S. soccer historically is that it comes and then it goes, right? Like it's very much follows the World Cup cycle. The difference probably in the time of those 8 years, right? We missed 2018, but in that time, the sport has blown up in and around the States. And maybe not necessarily to the extent that it's like, well, everybody's following their local clubs, but you and I do a podcast about the English Premier League, for fuck's sake, right? And so there's so much more attention waiting. It was all just kind of brimming at the top of the bottle, waiting for the cap to pop off of it for something exactly like this.
Yeah.
And obviously there was no, you don't want these controversies, you want success. But the hunger for success, and that's what you were getting at, is ideally the thing that ultimately helps lead to it, or more success than you've had in the past.
Hansi Flick, a guy who won the Champions League with Bayern and took the German job and left Bayern, had to be like, am I going to get fired? That's good. You should be like that.
Yes.
Anyway, so let us go to these amazing semifinals. Where do you want to go? Which one do you want to go to? The quarterfinals, excuse me, and then we'll get to the semifinals that are, sort of, we just gonna go, we tell you what they are and what's at stake. But we had on Friday we had the double penalty games with the South Americans going through, teams they should have beat, but holy shit, was that petrifying. And then we had the Battle of Hastings with William the Conqueror defeating Harold again. That happened, and in the form of Kane, sadly. And then we had mighty Morocco. I mean, every single one of these games has a storyline, and we just need to pick one and start. So
you have to start with the main event. You have the floor. Right? You have to start with the main event. You have to start with England, France. Because as wild as the other three games were, this was it was, and I'm not a big UFC fan, but it was almost like there was a great UFC card, and the title fight was just things that people will talk about for decades, and it probably will.
Yeah.
I thought it was a tale of two halves. I thought France were the far better side in the first. England, for me, were better in the second. I thought Bellingham was good. Saka was great. Harry was doing things in and around. He was pretty much the entire. You had Saka creating like opportunities but not getting shots. I think Bellingham had the only shot on target not from Harry Kane the entire game.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a title fight back and forth. You had Mbappe for the most part subdued.
Quiet. Yeah. I mean, I thought they did a good job. They always doubled and didn't really leave. You have to say,
right. You have to say, it was Walker and company advantage England there. Right. And that worked. It's just, you can't leave Olivier Giroud open that much, right? You can't give him that many opportunities.
He had almost just scored just before,
But that's not the only one he had. He had about 4 or 5 real good chances in the air, and I'm not saying that this is an easy task to shut him down with the surrounding cast, right? You're basically saying this is the poison I'm picking, and it's hard to even slate Maguire for that. It's just a very, very difficult task. When again, if you're facing he's on Roma or Milan these days, they've got a great supporting cast, but you can shut him down, right? You're not worried about him. And Leao is a guy who can beat you, but there's ways to beat that team. France is just, again, it's pick your poison. It's where am I going to get beat? You have to almost choose that going in, and you have to just wince and say, not that bad today. Right.
Yeah. And it's tough. And these are super talented teams. And I think that the thing that Mbappe did, which is this sort of thing that comes from basketball, and we talk about Steph Curry this way, is its gravity. You had to know where he was, what he was doing all the time. And that allowed for Griezmann to really pull the strings. He had 2 assists. It's his cross to Giroud that causes the thing. Tchouaméni takes an incredible shot. The goal that France scores early in the 17th minute is an incredible shot. But it came after a scramble. Where is Mbappe? He cuts across the box. They do get back into shape, but it's a little bit of space. And I'm not saying that Bellingham had a problem, but it was a moment of reset on the box. Like they were attacking England. And I think the other piece that I want to sort of call out is like just so many good performances. Declan Rice was just everywhere, picking up the ball, moving it forward, getting England into attack. Everyone really did a decent job. Even weirdo Jordan Henderson, who, gets slated a lot. As much as I slate him, listen, I have respect for the evil empire that is Liverpool, and he was the captain of that team. So he has a little bit of gravitas and some pull with that team. But it's just the Tchouaméni goal is like, you can't stop that. If that happens, the way you stop it is please don't be in that spot. And if you shoot, I don't want anything bad to happen. So first half is a little bit, once France got the goal, they didn't sit deep, but they relied on their strong defense because between Koundé and Varane and Upamecano, these guys are fast and they can really run. And Tchouaméni, I was worried about the French midfield. It wasn't that strong, but they held up. But Bellingham and Rice, it's a weird game. It's a weird game. Second half, Saka draws the penalty. Your man Kane finishes it, but then 20 minutes later, Giroud gets his goal. Then there's some changes. The Mount comes on and Sterling comes on, and we have this late penalty that comes for your friend and mine, Mr. Kane. And there's a delay. There's some shit housing. It was in the back. It was the terrible Mason Mount drew the penalty on an obvious penalty that wasn't called, which was absurd.
It was silly. And as soon as that call goes to VAR, and I put this in the WhatsApp group, and I said he's gonna miss. And when I know Harry Kane so well, and here's the thing, you have to understand, and
it's fear. It's a lot of things.
No. It was a mind game battle with Hugo, and one of his best friends, the captain of his club. He beat him once, and he goes, I have to come up with something different that he hasn't seen before.
Yep. Instead of that nice fire.
I very, very, very rarely have seen doubt in Harry Kane's eyes. And I felt it. I felt it during the VAR review. And it hurt to know that I was right. And and hey, by the way,
it's not safe.
What do we say?
Guide, right? Yeah.
Just go smash it.
And he did.
And unfortunately, he smashed it over the bar. Yeah, that was just so hard to watch. It really was. And the funny thing is, my wife took the dog out right after Giroud scored, and I looked at her and I went, this is kind of the best outcome for a Tottenham fan, for an American Tottenham fan. Kane had a really good tournament again. They lose. He's healthy. He gets back to London.
He was really good the whole tournament. Yeah,
he was great the whole tournament, and it's not his fault.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got the penalty, I went, "Oh, Michael! Oh, Michael!" What do you talked about the Tchouaméni goal? There's a lot of smoke coming out of the England camp about the officiating. What do you make of it?
They got 2 penalties. Shut the fuck up. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Did he call it
they
right?
were Stonewall penalties.
The issue was that on the Tchouaméni goal, there was a foul at the other end before they went down the other way. You know what? That's run of play. Play on. Come on. Don't.
Yeah.
I don't. There was a lot of
foul at the edge of the box, which we were talking about at the time in the group, where it was clearly a foul.
I never saw a replay.
Oh, it was a foul. I promise. But it was on the edge of the box, but not in it. And it's one of those where it would have been a penalty, but now it's not a foul at all. Now, look, that's not a problem with the refereeing. I suppose it's a foul. It's a problem with the referee not calling the foul.
It's with VAR. You don't want
with VAR. And that's what I said.
You don't want VAR reviewing fouls. So if it had been in a box, then they can say it's a penalty. But because it's outside the box, the call is the call.
I'm not going to agree with you on that. I'm going to say, I think across the board, I agree, right? But what VAR needs, and our American listeners will appreciate this, and I apologize for the reference for our British fans, our British listeners. They need a Buffalo Wild Wings button where they go, hold on a second. That deserves another look, right? Like where it's just basically chaos. Here you go. Because that was a foul. And maybe nothing comes of it. Right, it's a on the side of the box, so it's not even like you can take a free kick directly on. Probably, it's
less pressure. It's pressure on France. You've got to handle it. Yeah, listen, I don't think England was hard done. Like they got 2 penalties. Now, both those penalties had to be reviewed, which is absurd, right? Like that one in the back.
Part of
like, listen, as much as I hate VAR, that one in the back.
The first one, Saka's penalty was straight.
The one in the back, the Mant one, he wasn't going to call that, which is bonkers.
I know.
So anyway, Kane misses, and then England I do give them credit. They do battle back. They do get a free kick right at the end of the game. And, Rashford shoots it just over the bar. And I think the key thing here with narrative was this was for the English. Like I listened to Gary Neville. I listened to TalkSport. I pick up all the things. The narrative here is England played well. They simply did play well. And they could have on another day. They do beat France. And they're taking it as a weirdly, not a moral victory, like they bunkered in and made lots of saves. It was like, no. They were there for the taking. And that's kind of probably what's frustrating is like, we could have won this game. And I think if you're an England fan, you're like, fuck, man, we should have just let out all the chambers, throw them all on and just go after it. And maybe that's their feeling. Maybe there was some defensiveness, but I don't think so. I feel like, England's I think the big problem that comes up is England's center backs are not good enough for England to go hell for leather because they always have to have Rice with the center backs nearby. Because I was sort of kidding around as I was in the chat. I was like, oh, Stones, Maguire, and Declan Rice are the same player. They literally look the same. They're literally moving around together because the reason is that Rice does not trust to be anywhere far away from them. Like, I love John Stones. He's great on the ball, but he's kind of a hybrid. He's not quite a center back. He's not quite good enough on the ball to be a midfielder, though. So he's a center back who has midfielder skills, but can't really defend. Like, he's kind of weird. And then, Harry Maguire, they protect, I think the fullbacks are good. Obviously, England has great fullbacks. I would argue that maybe they should play Shaw and Walker as center backs and then use their extra half a dozen fullbacks. Because then they could play Trent and then they could play Reece James and Chilwell and try and be like this hybrid, like weirdo, we're all fullbacks kind of thing. I doubt that would work.
It's an idea.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like that thing that Southgate does that he's defensive. In this case, Southgate doesn't really have to feel like he had a handbrake on the team, and they can feel good about how they played. Mm-hmm. But I am sad.
I think one of the other storylines coming out of this was, Rashford looked great through the tournament. How could you not get him more minutes?
Well, who are you not going to play?
You're not going to play
Saka?
People are going to have hot takes. You're not taking Harry Kane out of the lineup. You're just not. And by the way, Marcus Rashford is not Harry Kane.
He's not Kylian Mbappe either, according to Ten Hag.
I saw that. You've got Saka and Foden, right?
You can't take them out. You can't. It's hard.
It's what they call a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go your way, it's one of those things you go, well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Not really. What? Because he scored a great free kick against Wales.
Yeah. And when we're talking about subs, we're talking about 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You hope for a change. Do you hold Foden back so that he can come on and change games instead of blah, 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 and this and that? Listen, England are fine. I don't think there's anything more to say. The question is do they stay with Southgate? He's sort of taking he's slow rolling it. Who's their next coach? I don't know.
If you would have told me that England would get knocked out in the quarters
By France,
then they
play well.
Not even, but not just if England lose in the quarters, Southgate is getting tarred and feathered, and his family is being run out of the country. Right? It's actually interesting to see sort of a measured approach from the English media, and
yeah, they're not.
I will say this
because they played well.
Less. I mean, Twitter is a fucking dumpster fire, but less hatred at Kane than I expected. I will say that.
Oh, there's a lot of.
Have I missed it?
It's Spursy. It's how could you expect someone from Spurs who's never won anything to win anything? Oh, now England are Spurs.
I'm glad that I'm glad that I've curated a fantastic Twitter feed then.
yeah. There's a lot of Spursy. The Arsenal fans are blah blah blah, but they shouldn't be because whatever. But let's move on to where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the South Americans or do you want to go to the Morocco, Portugal?
Let's go to the South Americans, and we'll wrap back around to Portugal.
Okay, I want to go to Argentina because that game was weird. So Argentina really bossed this game. Van Gaal, all his talk of kicking the Americans' ass. Argentina are not the United States, okay? Fucking tactical genius. The Dutch were terrible. They didn't do shit. They didn't have any chances. Lionel Messi scores a penalty early. They get another goal from Acuna on a pass by Messi that is like interplanetary, act insane. Like, how did he see it? How did he do it? It was one of those things where like, that fucking guy. He can do that. I think as much as I love Kevin De Bruyne has never made a diagonal through ball through 7 people. 4, but 7, no. So it was one, and he looked up. You could see him see it. It's an incredible ball, and the finish is fantastic. So they're cruising. Everything's fine. Argentina is cruising to this thing. No problem. Van Gaal, in his great wisdom and his Dutch beautiful football, we only play total football, goes, you know what? Here's this for total football. Give me 2 6'5" guys. We're going into the box. We're crossing it in. Weghorst comes on. Luke de Jong comes on, and it is on.
Because before that, you had all of it popping off.
Right? Oh, there's a lot of shithousing going on.
There's a lot of shithousing. There's a lot of craziness where I'm blanking on who it was. I think it might have been.
Oh, not Tagliafico. It was a younger guy. It was Fernandez, I think, or Fagundes. Can't remember his name.
Enzo Fernandez, I believe.
Yes.
I think it was Enzo Fernandez.
He kicks the
Enzo Fernandez has a rash tackle right on the halfway line. That's a yellow card challenge, like Stonewall, right?
It is a yellow card challenge.
He gets up, and by the way, it's right at the part of the field where the Netherlands
coaches
bench is. And we have shades of Roger Clemens here because he gets up and he just rips the ball at the bench, at the Netherlands bench. The Netherlands bench is completely beside themselves. They come storming out on the field. We've got a bench clearer here, folks. And it's not quite a bench, an old brouhaha, but there were some real good shoves. And the best moment of the whole fracas, if you watch and go back, Virgil van Dijk, I believe, to Fernandez, gives him
Paredes.
what would only be considered a Scott Stevens work of art, open ice check, where he just locks his arm into place and throws his shoulder into, I believe Fernandez is just chest bone. Boom. Yeah. He goes down like a sack of hammers. And
there's a lot going on. I did bury the headline on the 17 yellow cards and the referee.
Okay, but so awful. Now let's dissect this for one more second. Fernandez creates the initial foul, should be a yellow card. He kicks the ball at speed at the opponent's bench.
It hits a chair. I did check on it.
Okay,
it didn't hit anybody. Okay.
I don't think that should matter. That should also be a yellow card, folks. For those of you scoring at home,
and then I think Messi should have been sent off too. There was another one.
No, I don't buy that because he that's like a fallacy of the predetermined outcome, right? Like he wouldn't have gotten the second yellow card if he was on the first yellow card. You know what I mean? Because he was like wasting time or something.
There's a lot of shithousing going on in this game.
Oh, a ton of it.
Yeah, but the referee is causing half of it.
Yeah,
he's demonstrative. He's and if you've watched a Champions League game and you've seen this guy Lahore, Pep hates him. All refs hate him. They all complain about him. How this guy keeps on being able to be in these things is beyond understanding. But he's there. He's causing a fucking ruckus. It's just a real shit show. But I think the best part about this is Weghorst does come on the football side, and the Dutch just abandon all principles, and this game becomes a bombing assault, nothing like the Blitz of England or Dresden. It is bombing the ball, crossing second balls. Lisandro Martinez is under some serious threat. I mean, he's tiny. He's got Weghorst there, and it's nuts. Weghorst does get the first goal, which was like, oh, wow, look at that. Luc de Jong has a couple of, but I'm thinking these guys are bums. Like Luc de Jong is a bum, like first class.
But time is still running out on them, right?
Right.
I should say until there's 97 minutes
been
added on.
Great, by the way. There are 10 minutes added on, 11 minutes added on, and there is a free kick at the edge of the box. Argentina just has to defend this kick. And the Dutch pull one out of the Dutch oven that is just incredible free kick. They pass it directly to Weghorst, who's in the wall. He turns and fires, and it's tied. And I'm like, oh God, no extra time. I didn't want this. This was awful.
Oh no. You were in the minority. I wanted an hour more of this. Give me all of it.
I was tired.
It was unbelievable.
I had them in the final.
It ended up being a 3-hour match in total.
Oh God. But to Argentina's credit, they did pull themselves off the breach. They did get up off the deck and did have chances to win this game late. But there was a lot of more red cards, more changes. I think in extra time alone, there were 4 yellow cards. And then Dumfries finally did get sent off on a double yellow in the 123rd minute.
Right at the very end.
Yes.
And this is after Enzo Fernandez hits the post in the 119th.
Yes.
Underrated, and I will always call this out and question why. I think it's always stupid when they do this. Cody Gakpo in the 113th minute taken off. Why?
Because we've been playing every game of every minute.
Sure. But if he's one of your guys, he should be trusted to take a penalty. That's the hill I will die on. I understand he's tired. But nonetheless, we go to penalties. And my friend and yours, Emi Martinez, is staring down the Dutch. We talked about it.
I fucking love that guy.
Who did we cite? We talked about him in the Copa America. They brought it up on the broadcast, but we had a whole thing about it when he did that to Colombia. And he made 2 saves. Van Dijk and Berghuis.
And then I think that kind of really just sells the whole thing at that point.
Right. Well, once Paredes scores, that was who it was, Paredes, who with the whole brouhaha. Paredes scores the second one, and you're like, all right, you're not coming back from 2. Enzo Fernandez does miss, but Lautaro Martinez, who you were giving shit to,
he did.
He finally puts away the final winner. And you think that that's everything, right? Nope. The teams pop off again because it's I didn't even actually see who started what, but
it's the Dutch bench. It's Van Gaal and Edgar Davids yelling during the huddles before the penalties, saying, "We're taking them to penalties. We'll beat them in penalties." And Messi's like, "You disrespect me." I'm like, dude, what did you think they were gonna do? And he's yelling. They're yelling at each other the whole game. It's great. It's Argentina. It's the Dutch. I mean, what else would we get? But I will say that it's really the last half hour to an hour of this game that really kick off. If you saw the Messi pass, that would have been fine. But then the tension and the energy, it was breathless stuff. Wow. It was bonkers. It wouldn't be Argentina versus the Netherlands without it. They have a secret. Now they really do have a secret, not so secret rivalry that we hope that they play each other again and that things go off. And again, another one, Van Gaal quit, career over. Well, he did have cancer, but that's okay. So Messi is now 2 wins away from full GOAT status. He's at GOAT status for many, but I think if he gets the World Cup trophy, it is GOAT or bust for Mr. Messi.
Sure. Speaking of South Americans and penalty shootouts, we go earlier in the day, Croatia and Brazil. What we thought was going to be an instant classic turns out to be one of the less memorable games of this weekend. Croatia outlast the Brazilians in penalties. But how about the resilience of going down in extra time? First of all, playing them the way we knew that they would, right? And somebody here said 0-0 in penalties. But playing them all the way down to the bone, and then it's not. Yeah, that's right. In the 105th minute, in the first half of extra time, gives Brazil the lead. Now Croatia's on
a great goal, very cool
at this point. There's no,
they both are.
No way. There's right. And come on, they take Brozovic off for Orsic. They bring on Budimir as well for two more attacking players. Orsic ends up being the one who assists to Petkovic, the tying goal in the 107th minute, just before these to breathe life into
why Brazil are
lifeless.
Why Brazil are still attacking is beyond me. Like, you're up a goal. What are you doing? It was bonkers.
Yeah. One move, right? That's all they know how to do.
I think that the thing about this game, though,
they go to penalties, and it's what you got?
Oh, nothing. I think that we have a little bit of a time delay. What I was going to say was just this game, like, if you look at the stats, that Croatia had 50% of possession. How that's possible against Brazil should have never happened. But to your point, the penalties are they're just heartbreaking and amazing. And Croatia's goalkeeper made like 11 saves, and he's probably the
Livakovic is the hero again. He makes 2 saves on Rodrigo and Marquinhos.
Marquinhos hit the goal.
Sure. But that was a good taken penalty. Just rings off the bar. There's a freedom that Croatia plays with that is so enviable in these big spots where they're like, what happens if we lose? Nothing, right? Like, if Brazil lose, they're all going to be in trouble. Like, they're all going to get, arrested for tax evasion or something crazy. But yeah, it's you can tell that they play with the freedom. They can tell they play with the confidence that their keeper is going to get them one, and they just need to hold serve, right? Whereas a lot of the times, if we watch takers in that spot, they feel all the pressure. But Croatia's like, hey, let's go do our business and let our guy do his thing.
I think Croatia is now in, like, over the last 2 World Cups, they've won 4 out of 6 on penalties.
Yeah.
And they just, like, I think that the thing is, like, and this is one of these things that I've slowly had appreciation. I kind of forget. It comes in and out because it's these things that you don't notice unless you really pay attention, or you want to pay attention to it, because, soccer can have these weird flows. But if you just look at what Luka Modric is doing all these games, he's just fantastic. They can always throw him the ball. He drops deep in between the center backs. Then he's on the freaking wing. Then he's in the attack. Then he's putting the ball around the corner. And he gives them a confidence, like you were saying. They know they can just give him the ball. They're like, I'm in trouble. Fire it to Luka. He takes it down. He does those outside of the boot passes that look like they're easy, but then you think, no one else does that. It must be hard. But what that does is that it just wrong foots defenders, because they're trained their whole life. They're like, when a guy is standing like this, he passes like this with the inside of his foot, or maybe his left foot, but he'll take his left foot and make a right-footed pass, if you will. So everything is disguised. You don't know where the ball is going to go. It goes around the corner, and all of a sudden they're on the other side. The only thing Croatia are missing is Mandzukic, right? They're still missing a striker, but that midfield of Brozovic and Mateo Kovacic, who, if you watch Chelsea, he's what makes that teams go. You can give him the ball. Now, is he a great through-line passer? No. But now I know why. He doesn't have any practice because there's no one to pass to there or at Chelsea. So he's able to take the ball and run with it. And so the idea that Croatia against the mighty Brazil had 50% possession is mind-boggling. Like, this is Brazil. They shouldn't have they're not sitting deep and absorbing pressure. There's whole parts of the game where Croatia's just passing the ball around. And Brazil's like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't designed for this. We're not supposed to be able to do this. And I couldn't say how happy I am for Croatia. I loathe Neymar. I mean, if there's a player that I never want to win anything, it's Neymar. He's a whiner. He didn't take a penalty. You look at Van Dijk for the Dutch. He took a penalty. He missed. He's the captain. Messi, he took the first penalty. He took the penalty for his team. That Neymar did not take his penalty is just an indictment on him, an indictment on passing the buck on your teammates. Like, here's Rodrigo. He's 20 years old. Like, what are you doing? At the end of those penalties, he's crying. What, you're crying too, but you're supposed to be 30 years old and the captain of Brazil. What are you doing? Like, I know.
Now it should be said, I'm sure that he was going to take the 5th spot, right? But that's not a given. Yeah, that's not a given. So for you to do it and say that want to be the poster child, that's absolutely ridiculous. You get out there and you go, we're not going to miss the first one because I'm going to take it.
Well, the other thing is they changed the rules in FIFA. It's not fixed. You can change who takes the penalty anytime. You're behind.
Well, the players decide more or less, right? Like
it used to be that it used to be that if you wrote it down, it was fixed.
Right.
And they've changed it where the referee doesn't care. He's just, oh, you're taking it. Go ahead, go. Yeah. So, that he didn't see that his team was down and find it within himself to go take it. Now, the argument will be, if you don't want to take it, don't take it. There's a lot of strikers who don't want to take them. You think about, they're just players who just don't.
But then don't hide. Then get out of the spotlight completely. If you can't take the heat, get out of the fucking kitchen. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and then
Brazil are out on this show.
I mean, and then we're getting into a weird space with Brazil. It's 2002. This is 20 years without a World Cup.
Yeah,
that's getting long. It's like,
as soon as Neymar retires, I am hopefully I will cheer for them again. But until then, go fuck yourselves. And speaking of go fuck yourself,
our favorite up yours to our friend Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo, who we've gotten a lot of content out of, by the way.
We have.
Him and Ole. Ole are the stars of this podcast.
Do not let the door hit you on your ass on your way out of the stadium. I made the joke that it was kind of like watching him, fade out through the tunnel after they lost to Morocco was like the end of the Sandlot. And it's like, Cristiano Ronaldo really got into the 60s and nobody ever saw him again, right? Like kind of like that. Because he's going to Saudi Arabia and nobody's ever going to see him again. Like he's just going to sit there, make $200 million a year and not give a shit. I wouldn't even be surprised if he ends up getting fat and not coming to MLS because he doesn't care.
He'll never get fat. He's too vain for that.
No, so I think he might.
So I have to be completely honest and frank in that this is the first game that I watched of Morocco straight through. I mean, I had read about it. I watched the highlights, but highlights don't really do Morocco justice. This was a team that played with force. It was this concept of a mid-block, which is, it's not quite deep. Your center backs aren't on the 18-yard line and you're not dropping deep. It's more like you're in the center circle and you once someone comes across the line, then you press. But they ran hard, and I want to call out a few players on this team. Amrabat, Hakimi. The other fullback was incredible. Atia Allah. He's not even in a top 5 European league, and he is a murderer. On the break, Boufal, Hakimi, and Ziyech. When they went on the break, Ziyech, when they go on the break, it's not some like shitty break. They would break the lines, and then the one that I really love is their number 8, Ouani. He was playing in the center of the three sometimes when Amrabat was sort of putting out fires. And when they got the ball after an attack broke down for Brazil, for Portugal, they wouldn't just hoof it. They would get it into Ouani's hand, and he would dribble past dudes on his 18-yard box. He's this skinny little guy, plays for Angers in France. He was incredible. This is a guy who's going to get a fucking contract. And he did end up assisting. No, sorry. He didn't assist. My friend Atia assisted on the El Nesri goal. He's a giant motherfucker who flew in the air, gets the goal at the start of the half. And, the party started for Morocco from there on. And it was never really close. I mean, I know XG isn't everything, but for Portugal to have less than 1 XG against Morocco,
despite 76% possession.
Yeah, they 76. just never really did anything. They did make the changes. I mean, I would have expected Cancelo to have started, but Cancelo and Ronaldo come on 51. They had most of the game, and they did nothing. Nothing.
Neves
Leao did nothing.
I said
he
it at the
came on
time.
at 69. He did nothing. Nobody did anything.
I said it at the time. I thought Neves coming off when he did was interesting because he was actually had the most passes through halftime. I know that because I bet on him. But it was one of those where he seemed to be involved in everything Portugal was doing. So to take him out, early second half was kind of surprising. I'm not saying don't take him out.
I think this is one of those where I'm not going to say Bruno Fernandes, where Bruno Fernandes is supposed to create everything, and he just wasn't able to because the Moroccans just didn't let it happen. I think that this is a real unit and a real team, and they're essentially playing at home. They have the entirety of Africa and the Arab world with them. And from what I saw of France against England, I don't see any reason why Morocco should feel like they can't put it on France.
They absolutely have a puncher's chance. I would say
the only thing I think of is that their center backs are both hurt, which is bad.
Yeah. I think you'll have the Hakimi on Mbappe similar
That'll be fine
to Walker, right? Like I think it's as good as you're gonna do, right? But yeah, it's how do you shut down the Griezmanns, the Girouds, and so on and so forth. But
the question is can they get a goal, right? Can they get a goal,
right?
And how do they get a goal,
right?
And if they can get on the break. But I would not be that surprised. Would it be an upset? Of course, it would be an upset, but I think it would be deserving. I think that Morocco fundamentally is good, and they're
Who does this in recent memory in club football? Is there a team that this reminds you of?
Leicester.
Oh, okay. I was going to go with a deep tournament run wearing red in 2019. This is Ajax, and Ziyech is the connection for me there, right?
Okay.
But this is that Ajax team for me. Just watching them take down giant after giant.
Sure.
And
different style though. That's why I said.
Absolutely. But and like I said, Ziyech is kind of the link for me mentally. But I see them as unafraid giant killers. So that's
what they have that's different from some of these teams is the Morocco and Algeria are close, and they remind me, and Boufal reminds me of Riyad Mahrez, and so does Ziyech.
Yeah.
These North African flair players who are street ballers, effectively. Yeah. They're poor. They're from poor neighborhoods, poor towns, and they play in the street, and they have a flair for the dramatic, and they'll do a behind the leg thing. And when they're on the break, and they need those moments when their team defending, they don't get the ball. Someone gives them the ball, and then they're closed down. They have the trick to get out of it and then release that ball out onto the wing, and the whole thing goes on again.
Or get fouled and take the pressure out.
But in club football, coaches don't like it because sometimes they make a mistake and and whatever, and they get annoyed by that because whatever reason. Like I know I get annoyed with Riyad Mahrez when he checks back 5 times and tries to take a left-footed shot. I go, what the fuck are you doing? Get rid of it.
They know.
But when there's 3 of them and that's the whole purpose of the team, then it makes more sense. And they've got the big man striker. Their striker has indeed had an 18-goal season for Sevilla, so he's capable of it. So they can do it. And then I think the other, if we gonna go, it's tough to do these predictions because it's so difficult. They're all just around narrative.
You've got 2 heavy favorites. Here's what it is. You've got 2 heavy favorites, and you've effectively got 2 teams that live to ruin favorites' day, right? Like you have Croatia, who has gone through, hell and high water to get to the semifinal again, right? They survived Japan, of course, but they got through Brazil, and in the group stage, they were fighting like hell. You've got Morocco, who we've already chronicled, went through Portugal, went through Spain. So France and Argentina are certainly on upset alert, to say the least. I have to think that there's a certain amount of destiny in the Argentina side. We saw it at Copa America. We saw that the will to do it for Leo. We've talked about it on the show. Is strong, but at the same time, they gave up a 2-goal lead to the Netherlands. So I'm kind of two minds there. We saw Croatia pull it back against Brazil. I love both of these teams. My heart tells me that Croatia they're going to run out of gas a little bit here. All of the extra time, all of the penalties. It seems like their slipper is going to it's going to fit one last time, but then it's going to turn back. The carriage is going to turn back into the pumpkin. So I like Argentina to nudge ahead there. And then it's hard to say the words out loud. I think Morocco can beat France. We just talked about it. There is an opportunity for them to take this game. But if you say those words in succession, in a full sentence, period, stop, you sound like you should be in an insane asylum. This French team, never mind the fact that they're defending World Cup champions, they're getting contributions from their entire attacking band. I just don't know how Morocco stops all of them, right? If England couldn't do it, you just said, Morocco's dealing with injuries in the back line. How, if you mark Mbappe out of the game, if you treat him like Steph Curry, as we said, there's just going to be somebody else left there to beat you. And for me, it's too much. You've got France, you've got Argentina, and I think that's pretty much what you're going to have going into the final on Sunday the 18th. So, we're excited about it. We'll see. It's been a great ride so far, but I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be Argentina and France battling it out, and I have nothing really against France, but if I tip that, and we'll talk to you again before then, but I'm of the hope that that Messi can lift that trophy and reach that GOAT status, as Laurent said. So
yeah, Mike, do you hear me all right?
Oh yeah, there you are.
You did pick up, but I dropped out for a second. I could hear you the whole time. It looks like my background dropped out, but
people can't see you, which is honestly probably the best part about our show. So, but I've got
Argentina. That's all right if they can't see me.
Yeah.
We'll just bring you into the solo thing. Yeah, I agree. I'm all about Argentina on this one. I really hope they pull it out. The Messi thing is big for me. I really want him to get the GOAT status. I just think it would be a shame that we have to keep talking about Pele and Maradona, two guys that are frozen in 3 videos in 9 minutes of video and some stuff from the Cosmos. I'm sure they're great, but we've seen Messi. I've seen it. Like, it's real. And when he gets that cup, it's gonna be solidified as him as the greatest of all time.
He's just done it by himself so many times. So I just want I want him to get a little bit of help this time.
And then to stick it to Ronaldo as Ronaldo fades, as he's trying to hang on one more. It's kind of like it does give me a little reminiscent of like Nomar washed up on the Cubs trying to hang on. You're not in the conversation anymore, Nomar. You're not with A-Rod and Jeter. Yeah, you're gone, buddy. You're done.
Laurent said something almost adjacently nice about Derek Jeter, so that's how I know it's time to go. Laurent, let's get the fuck out of here.
That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike and Laurent. We are members of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, usually one of those days. So be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show. It makes a difference. We've enjoyed this tremendously, and we'll speak to you soon.